Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast, and today we have a movie that I believe is a movie to watch before you die, but we're going to see if we can come to a consensus on that. So, before I tell you what movie we're talking about, Gab, do you want to tell the people why they're listening to us?
Normally, the first thing I say is Gab.
I didn't say our names. I didn't say our names.
That's okay. Do you want to say your name?
I'm Dylan. You're my cousin and co-host.
Gab.
What's your name? What's your name, damn it?
I said Gab.
Who are you?
Short for Gabrielle.
Where
Gabrielle
am I?
is my full name. I don't go by Gabby. Don't even try. Okay. What am I supposed to say now?
Well, Gab, you were supposed to say why people are listening to us, but that was after I had already skipped past your name. You weren't ready. Yeah. I wasn't ready.
It caught me off guard.
I had literally just said I'm going to nail this intro.
You did. You were very confident.
This fucking thing.
You took a big breath too. You were like, and then botched it.
Do I try it again? Do I start over?
No. It's too late now. It's too late now. Yeah, no, I got places to be. Okay, so you're listening to us because we have the credentials to be talking about this shit. Number one, we are deep into this podcast. So if this is your first time, welcome, stay a while. I am a former actor. I have a degree in performance. I understand script analysis, character development, and what it takes to give a beautiful and convincing performance. And Dylan, you went to film school. You are a former video editor. You watch movies with an eye for details and cinematography that go right over my head. So between the two of us, we tell people whether or not a movie is good.
Yes, and today the movie we're talking about is the 1993 action thriller, The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. And before I get too deep into my love about it, Gab, why don't you tell the people in the spoiler-free version, what is this movie about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
This movie is about a man, a doctor. I think it's important to note that he is a doctor because it implies that he is wealthy and well-established. A doctor who is wrongfully convicted of his wife's murder. And on his way to the federal prison in which he has been sentenced to life without parole and the death penalty, which was a little crazy, indicative of the year. I believe lethal injection, they specify. His transport is, the bus crashes, a train runs it over. He is able to escape and remains on the run, a fugitive of the law, while desperately trying to prove his innocence.
The first half there, I was going to be like, did you cheat? Because you were so very close to everything it was saying.
Yes, so, and then I fumbled.
You weren't bad. You just gave more description, I felt like, than it was like. It got more concise and to the point, and you were like, let me tell you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, the IMDb plot summary. Dr. Richard Kimball, unjustly accused of murdering his wife, must find the real killer while being the target of a nationwide manhunt led by a seasoned U.S. Marshal. My only problem with that is calling it a nationwide manhunt because it is really just Chicago. It is a Chicago manhunt.
Yeah, it's local. It's quite local.
They talk extensively about like Chicago is quite the player in this movie.
Yeah, Chicago is like a character in the movie.
Yes. Would you like to hear the tagline?
I would love to hear the taglines.
Which I will say, I've seen this tagline before on like the VHS and the DVD box, and it works much better when you're seeing it on the box with the image of Harrison Ford running. A murdered wife, a one-armed man, an obsessed detective. The chase begins.
Yeah. The one-armed man to me was a little bit like Princess Bride, you know, like the five-fingered man. Six-fingered man. Yeah,
most of us are five-fingered. Yeah.
Yeah. The six-fingered man. And the whole time that they kept talking like the one-armed man, I was like, I think I've seen this before. But the Princess Bride was after this, right? 94?
No, I think Princess Bride is the 1980s.
No. Really?
1987.
Wow, I was way off.
Yes. Every time there are two things here that like I watched the movie with Giselle and she twice looked over at me and she was like, I've heard you say this a million fucking times. The first is when he goes, there was a one-armed man in my house. You find this man. You find this man. And I have done that a million times for like no reason. I've just like broken into it. And also I feel like I could just hear Tommy Lee Jones in my head going, your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball. Like, it's just the way that he just has a way of saying things in this movie. But that's my opinion, and we're not at my opinion yet.
Correct.
So I guess we should give some further description of just the storyline of the movie.
Yes. Why don't you do that?
I do think it is a fairly straightforward story. Like you said, it is just about Dr. Kimball, who has escaped from death by lethal injection, which, there is a moment where he's talking to his lawyer briefly and he tells him to turn himself in. And I'm like, it's not going to get better for him if he turns himself in. He's going to die. Like,
yeah.
Not very convincing. But it is all about him trying to simultaneously evade Samuel Gerard, who is Tommy Lee Jones' character, the Marshal, and at the same time trying to prove his innocence by proving, finding the one-armed man and finding the motive for why Helen was killed. And I do think the motive almost feels like it doesn't matter because I feel like they don't reveal it until very close to the end. It turns out that the motive is that Dr. Kimball, who is a vascular surgeon, finds out that a pharmaceutical company, Devlin McGregor, was trying to have him killed because he discovered that their miracle drug, Provasic, was causing massive bleeding from the liver. And they were faking samples to try and get this drug approved. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. And it really doesn't make a point of making out like, is Big Pharma the bad guy here? Like, no, it's just an easy enough scapegoat that we're like, oh yeah, major pharmaceutical company ends up having guy killed, sure. And it really all connects back to, spoiler, we're getting into serious spoiler here, who really turns out to be the person who ordered the hit on Richard and, in doing so, his wife being killed. His friend, Dr. Nichols, which Dr. Nichols and another Dr. Lentz had a part in the creation of this drug, so we're going to make a lot of money off of its success. Yeah. I will say, brief aside, I think of this movie every time that we were going to your mom and dad's, because as you're driving on the southern state of Long Island, the exit, it's like one or two exits before we take the exit for your guys' house. It says Nichols Road. And I always think of Dr. Charles Nichols from The Fugitive.
That's so funny.
Totally unimportant. Like, I don't know why this movie, I think I was telling you off air, my grandma showed me this movie and it has just stuck with me since I was a kid. And like, this should not be a movie that is that interesting to like a little kid, but it has stuck with me.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I get it. Those things happen. Movies will do that to you. I do want to say, I think that if this movie were being remade within the past like 10 years or so, the actor who played Dr. Nichols, plural?
Yeah.
Would be Christoph Waltz.
I see it. And I believe also that the actor who plays him, which I have his name written down, we'll get to that later. He is Dutch, I think. So I think maybe that's you. Because there are times where it's like he'll say a word and it's like you can tell he's definitely not an American actor. Not that he like sounds cartoonish or has like a huge accent. He just says words a little differently than you would notice. So I do get why he gives you a little bit of a Christoph Waltz vibe. And you know what? If they did remake this, I could totally see Christoph Waltz being that character.
Yeah, especially because he kind of turns out to be sinister. And I feel like Christoph Waltz has this very innocent look, because it's important to note that Dr. Nichols like goes out of his way to help Dr. Kimball while he's a fugitive. Or so it would seem.
Well, he goes out of his way to make sure that he's not caught by the police. And I think that they obviously make a point of noting that they're friends many times. And once you get to the end, you realize he doesn't want, especially once Richard gets far enough, Richard going back to the police, because he can start to tie things back to him.
Right.
And by the time we get to the end of this movie, spoiler, we do have a showdown between Richard Kimball and the man who got his wife killed, Dr. Nichols, while Samuel Gerard is hunting them at the same time. I think that gets, I mean, do I just give away the end by this point?
You can if you want to. Yeah.
I think you should
already have.
Yeah, I feel like like I said, it's a simple story. So I feel like I've told you so much of the movie, but I haven't really told you very specific set pieces, which there are two really good set pieces here. But I do think that you should watch this for yourself. I'm not sure if there's a streaming service you can find it on. Gab, did you rent it on Amazon like you normally
Prime.
do?
Yeah.
I recommend spending the $5 or less that it costs to rent this movie.
Yeah.
By the end of it, spoiler, Harrison Ford has proven his innocence. and he has proven to Gerard that he is innocent. I think we can get into our opinions now, and I can start gushing about how much I love this movie.
Please do.
In this critic's opinion,
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
So you brought up already the bus/train incident, which I think is fucking phenomenal. And one of those things that if it happened now, you talked about if they remake this movie. I think this movie looks so different if they remake it. I think there's so much more. We need to have more action because we're capable of doing more with CGI.
Yeah.
So I feel like in a way, there's a bit of a restraint of, well, we don't need to show, we don't need to have them do this. We don't need to have them jumping across rooftops or something like that. We just need to have it be tense and be close and have him just manage to get away. And when they do have those big set pieces, they're done in practical ways. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think it looks great. Like, I think the bus train sequence still now, which this movie is, oh my God, 30 years old, looks phenomenal. And it's because they actually crashed a train into a fucking bus.
So I agree with you. I think I was waiting for that scene, especially once you saw the train coming. I was like, oh my God, this is going to look like garbage. But it looked really good. How did they do it? What was the effect situation?
Well, they found out that rather than make a bunch of miniatures of a train, which would have been very expensive, they said, we're going to spend the money. They bought a train for $20,000 and they fucking destroyed it. Like, I'll have more to say about it later. Yeah. But that is an actual train crashing into a bus. What they do is when the train hits the bus initially, it also has an explosive inside the front of the train to show the bus being on fire as it gets hit. The only thing that is faked there is we have Harrison Ford climbing out of the bus right before impact, and that is done in front of a blue screen, which I think if you pause and go frame by frame, yeah, you can see, a little bit of, on the edges that it's like, okay, that's not perfectly smooth.
Yeah.
But if you're just watching it happen in real time, they show it fast enough that it hides that effect really well.
Let me ask you this. What's the difference between a blue screen and a green screen?
Really simply put, just the color. I think they ended up, feeling like green was better. Blue screen was usually done more at the time. I'm sure there is a better description of this, but blue screen was much more common beforehand. I think it's also that blue screen can be easier to do, especially for an outdoor type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I understand. Yeah. Okay.
I may be totally wrong in what I'm saying there. I'm sure that there is a more scientific reason for why they did end up switching it, but I know that those are some of the very simplistic reasons.
Scotty, look it up.
Get on it, Scotty. We need you.
Let us know.
The other big set piece is the dam, which there is a great chase sequence through a dam that has some really well done. What do I say here? I don't want to call it choreography, but I guess staging. Really well done staging in a way that shows you, one, how fucking lost they get in this dam, because Richard is just, by this point, he is just running.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we should mention that they get into the dam going through the sewer. He escapes through a sewer. So it begins in the maze of the sewer and then ends up at a dam.
Correct. They are at a tunnel right next to the dam. He escapes into the sewer in the tunnel, goes into the dam. It ends up with Gerard splits up with his other two deputies who are in the dam with him. They go down one direction, he goes down the other. He falls down and drops his gun. You have what is probably the most memorable moment of the movie is Harrison Ford picking up the gun, and he's holding the gun on Tommy Lee Jones, and he says to him, "I didn't kill my wife." And Tommy Lee Jones just looks at him and says, "I don't care." And it is what I feel like is the most famous line out of this movie, which it's interesting because it's not like a great line or anything. It's just, one, the situation of the person just saying like, "I don't care." And two, it's just, God, watching this movie, Tommy Lee Jones just has a way of saying things that he makes lines that would not be interesting more interesting.
Yeah.
Which I don't, maybe it's just my behind the scenes stuff. Watching Tommy Lee Jones in interviews, the man is quite the actor because he seems like he is in constant pain when he's not acting.
Really?
Oh my God. He is like, he looks like he so desperately wants to get out of every conversation he's ever been in.
Interesting. I don't know much about him.
He's a very serious man.
Yeah. He's ugly.
He is not the most handsome fellow in the world. I don't want to out-talk Tommy Lee Jones too much.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I'm just saying. I mean,
was
when you're
talking
next to Harrison Ford, like, you know.
I was talking about his ears in one scene. I said, man, he's got some big ears. And Giselle went, be quiet, he can hear you.
That's the best thing I have ever heard. I love her. She's the best. That's incredible. He's always listening. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the dam. How did they do it?
So, first of all, it's a combination of several things. They built tunnels so that they could have those sets where they could light it better. They have an actual shot from the dam where it's the shot, of the exterior of the dam. And then interior, they have a shot where it's just going outwards. That is not actually facing a dam, of course. And then the finality of the shot when Harrison Ford to escape, because after he has the gun on Tommy Lee Jones, he continues to run away. Tommy Lee Jones pulls a second firearm, and Harrison Ford gets to a point, which I find it funny that in any movie with Harrison Ford, I end up just calling him Harrison Ford at some point instead of calling him his character. He ends up looking, he's on his knees surrendering to Gerard, looking outside. He's at the precipice of the dam where, what would you call it, where the water flows from?
Like the waterfall.
Yes, he is looking at a very large drop. And it is
it's hundreds of feet and the water is gushing and there's rocks.
Yes, and he's between being captured and doing the only other thing he can do, which is he just jumps, which is another Gerard line I like, where he says, guy did a Peter Pan right off the dam right here. And when they do that, I think this looks a little more dated than the train busting does. It's a dummy that's being thrown out of the dam. But apparently they were two very expensive dummies. Like, I guess the props people were very proud of how expensive these dummies were. I don't have an exact number, but I think like tens of thousands of dollars were spent on dummies. I think that you can tell, oh, that's a dummy, but it connects well into a shot that they filmed in just a normal backlot, like pool type of thing of, I believe it is Harrison Ford entering water. So it's like, okay, it looks decent as he's falling, but then you're like, oh, I see Harrison Ford enter the water. It connects well enough that you're not stopping and taking yourself out of it too much. I don't know if you felt like you got taken out of it while watching.
No, not at all. I didn't feel like that at all. Although in fairness, I don't, unless it's really, really bad, that's really not something that I would notice because I'm thinking about other things.
Well, good. That's all that matters is that it's not bad enough that you're taken out.
Yeah.
I would say that those are the two biggest set piece type moments. The third thing that I feel like, I guess, was kind of big, but not really, is the sequence during the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, an interesting thing, they did just actually film during the St. Patrick's Day parade, and they didn't tell people they were filming.
Oh, shit.
So, like, obviously, I think they had permission to film, but people in the parade didn't know, like, oh, Harrison Ford's just going to be walking through and Tommy Lee Jones. And I guess if you don't know it's Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, people don't really speak up and notice that much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It was really funny because the first shot they show to establish that it's St. Patrick's Day is the river dyed green. And as soon as that shot came on the TV, Corey went, what the fuck? Because he thought our TV was broken. and then he was like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. And I was laughing my ass off. And he goes, if they can dye the river green one day a year, how come they can't dye it blue the other 364?
Wait, Corey said that, or the guy said that in the movie?
Corey said that.
But right before the guy says it in the actual movie?
Wait, the guy said it in the movie?
Yes, one of the deputies says, Sam, if they can dye this river green one day a year, why can't they dye it blue the other 364? Like, word for word, he says the same line.
Did he? Hold on. Should I call him in here? All right,
if you're calling him out for plagiarism, I suppose you should. Like, what else did I have written down here? Oh, you know what I love in the beginning while Corey's coming in?
What?
First of all, they do drop the hint of Dr. Nichols with Dr. Nichols they're at a charity event in the beginning of the movie, and he thanks Richard for his car. He's like, hey, thanks for the loaner, which ends up being important at the end. But they show when he's driving back home, Dr. Kimball using a car phone. little kid Dylan thought car phones peak of fucking technology. If you have a
Yeah.
phone in your car, oh my fucking God.
Yeah. It's okay.
Is Corey here
All right.
now?
Corey's here. Hang on. Let me give him an AirPod.
Okay.
All right.
Hey.
All right. So listen, I'm not gonna be mad. Okay. When we were watching the movie, you said if they can dye the river green today, how come they can't dye it blue the other 364 days of the year? True or false?
I did not say that.
Oh, so now this
um,
is Cam just misremembering.
No. I didn't say that. The guy with the mustache said that to Tommy Lee Jones.
That is correct.
I just went on here and credited you with that joke. I was like, Corey said the funniest thing. And then Dylan said, you didn't say it. And
No. You know what? You know what happened? They cut to the scene and the river was bright green. And I said, whoa.
I did hear this, that you thought the TV was
And
broken.
then I was like, I thought the TV was, and I was like, oh no, it's St. Patty's Day.
What's the other thing though? In the beginning, I'm sorry, and then we'll get back to the topic. But in the beginning, when there's the fight scene between the fake arm guy and the wife, and it's like cutting, it's very dramatic. They like cut to her being thrown, cut to her head being like, smashing at the table. What did you say? Trigger warning.
Oh yeah, that's what I said.
No, he was like, trigger warning. We're tossing bitches in this movie, or something like that.
I did right. I was like, it's a bit much in the beginning with all the weird negative versions of the dead wife. Somebody loved that effect. Like somebody was like, it would look really cool if every 5 seconds it looks like the film negative. Wouldn't that be awesome? And the guy was like, fuck, man, this is due tomorrow. I don't care.
Honestly. Well, I'm sorry. I came in here to bust you, but I really thought you said that.
I mean, I wish I did.
She's going to start attributing random other quotes to you. Then Corey said to me, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Honestly.
I
Well,
wish I did. First of all, I just want to say I love that movie. And if you watch this, you should probably watch U.S. Marshals right afterwards.
I've only seen U.S. Marshals once. I didn't like it
Me
as
too.
much as this movie, but I did like it.
I saw it as a kid in the movie theater when it came out, and I haven't seen it.
I was going to sound like you were too young to see that in the theater.
Yeah, no, it came out in '98. I saw it in the movie theater. Yeah. I think
were you,
I
like,
saw it
9?
with my dad. I was like 9 years old.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that movie not R-rated?
It's R-rated.
There was some 16-year-old kid who was like, I don't give a shit. Go on in.
Yeah. Well, no, I was with my dad.
Yeah, you can go with your... Isn't that
Your
weird?
dad, your dad could take you to get a tattoo when you're 9 years old if you want.
Not your mom, though.
Not your mom.
Gotta be your dad.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
guys.
sorry about that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you. I love you.
I don't trust my mom
Damn.
or dad to pick a tattoo for me, so I'm good there.
Yeah, he said goodbye. I don't know if you heard.
I did not,
Okay.
but tell him I say goodbye back. Don't do it now.
Okay.
Do
I
it
won't right
later.
now. He's gone. The door is shut.
That's good.
All right. Well, I don't remember what we were talking about, but here we
We
are.
were talking about things Corey didn't say, apparently.
Yeah. I did think it was funny though. Trigger warning. We're tossing bitches in this movie. That really made me laugh. Okay.
Another thing that's interesting, in the beginning of the movie, they're interrogating him, and I feel like we've all seen enough interrogation footage and true crime and Dateline to know that no matter what, get a lawyer. And
Yeah.
Richard does not have a lawyer in the room with him because until the moment that they ask about life insurance and they're like, you're going to be pretty well off after this, which he's already a vascular surgeon. He clearly was not hurting for money.
Yeah.
But they say that's when I feel like you can tell that it clicks for him at one point. Like, oh my God, they think I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. Like, I feel like Harrison Ford does a really good job of acting traumatized and acting loss. And there are two interesting like dream sequences that I did not remember being in this movie, but I do think that he does a good job of reacting to both, which I think must be such an interesting thing as an actor when they're telling you like, okay, we're gonna have a footage of you're having a pleasant dream, you're having a pleasant dream, the dream's good, your wife's dead, things are bad, go. Like I just picture them doing that on set. He's like, oh, gotta show traumatized face now. Like I don't know how they accurately do that.
Well, usually it would be, so there's a couple ways that they'll do it. It really depends. So obviously if he's in the dream with the wife, and I feel like we just watched a movie where, Sleepless in Seattle. Then it's easy, right? Because you're reacting to the person, and then they'll cut, the person is gone, and you're reacting to the loss. When it's, remind me how I went with this movie.
I'm thinking of either when you're waking up from a dream, that type of sequence, or any time that it's like, we need to show the character thinking about this, and it'll cut away to that happening, but then it'll just be a shot of the actor reacting to the thing that they're not seeing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that can happen. I mean, it depends on really the actor. Like there'll be, obviously like different methods, right? There's like journaling, there's like, different like techniques of like imagination and stuff like that. But I think like practically, you'll basically just have somebody explaining to you what just happened. You'll kind of take a moment to like get into the headspace, and then they'll count you in and you'll react.
Okay.
Oftentimes too, I mean, if there's no audio being recorded, you'll have somebody off camera like talking to you. Like, you could have the director saying like, okay, like, she's walking away, she's getting further, you can't reach her no matter what you do, you're shouting, she can't hear you, like stuff like that, to give you cues to react to.
Yeah, or to like, I guess, put you in the emotional place of it.
Yeah.
There's a line that I feel like we almost skipped over, which, this is probably the real most famous line from this movie, because I've seen this parodied, I feel like, in other things. What I want out of each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, and doghouse in that area.
Yeah.
It's just a really well done montage of like showing how smart Gerard is, showing how aware he is of what the fugitive will do, while also showing Dr. Kimball. And I feel like it's something I said about Wait Until Dark, is I really appreciated that was a horror movie where everyone is smart.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I feel like in this movie, your two most important characters, Dr. Kimball and I almost called him Dr. Gerard, the U.S. Marshal Gerard, are both very, very smart. I do think they make a point of showing that Gerard is like obviously smarter than everybody else, because there are so many times where they're like, he's definitely dead, let's just stop looking for him. And he's like, well, if he's dead, he should be easy to find me the body. You know what I mean? And he's like, I'm not going to just stop. Gab, I feel like I'm saying a lot and you're not saying anything about this. And I don't want to set myself up to be hoisted by my own petard.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. Let me sit up. So, I will say this. Harrison Ford, has proven to be a good actor, which is crazy. I guess, you do something long enough, you start to get good at it, because Indiana Jones was bad. Like his performance in that movie was bad.
I think, would I call him the greatest actor ever? No. But I think what he always does well is he's always very charismatic and very charming.
Yes.
Which is similar to
100%.
It's similar to the star power of somebody like a Tom Cruise, where they can be a great actor, but no matter what, they're always entertaining. And I do think Harrison Ford sometimes is first and foremost entertaining before he adds in that being a good actor.
Yeah, but this, I think, was a good performance.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because I was worried you would say otherwise.
No. I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really good. I thought he did a great job. You know what it is? Sometimes a great actor will deliver a lot of nuance, right? A great actor, again, I've said this to you before, it's like a clean window. You don't see the window. You're just very clearly seeing to the other side. And what I think a lot of bad actors do is they like overact and they over deliver this big, and there was so much opportunity for Harrison Ford to over deliver this performance and really ham it up. And he didn't at all. I think it was a very, I guess realistic is the only word that I can think of to describe the performance, where it was just very genuine, and you could see a lot of pain and suffering without it necessarily being like over dramatic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's not like a big scene of him crying and screaming no or anything like that.
Yeah.
We
even when the wife is dead.
Yeah, we see like one shot of him holding her body and like cradling her. And it's not the focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, we don't need that cliche scene where they'd be like, and nominated for best actor, Harrison Ford. And then they would show him being, crying and going, no, you know what I mean?
Right.
We don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there are so many moments where he's, getting the apartment, right? And he's like, obviously got to try to find some place to live. And it's a shady place. And, the police are outside and he thinks it's for him, but it's really for something else. And he's kind of relieved. Like there's never any moments of overacting, which I think is really good. Tommy Lee Jones, I don't really know much about him. I've never really seen a lot of Tommy Lee Jones movies. You and I saw Men in Black in the movie theaters together, but I don't remember. And I remember going to McDonald's to get the toy. I remember going to McDonald's and getting many different Happy Meals to try to get the toy. The one that wipes your memory.
The neuralizer.
The neuralizer, thank you. But I don't know much about Tommy Lee Jones. So I don't want to state the obvious, but I thought he was really good. I mean, obviously I know he's a very famous actor, but
he's phenomenal in this movie. Like he definitely elevates that character from being nothing into very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll give you two super quick fun facts about Tommy Lee Jones.
Please do.
One, he went to Harvard.
Wow. What did he major in?
I don't know, but do you want to know who his roommate was at Harvard?
Oh my God. Yeah. I feel like I know this though.
Future Vice President Al Gore.
What? I actually did know that. I've heard that somewhere.
Just
Crazy.
think that's so random and cool.
Do you think they text?
I don't think Tommy Lee Jones texts anyone. No, okay. I don't see him texting.
Well, Al Gore definitely texts.
Is it environmentally friendly? He's not writing letters.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
Wouldn't waste the paper.
Yeah, of course. Okay, what was the other fun fact? Those were the two. Okay, yeah. I thought he was really good. I said to Corey at one point, probably halfway through the movie, I said, I literally don't know who I'm rooting for. Like, am I rooting for Harrison Ford to not get caught, or am I rooting for Tommy Lee Jones to catch him?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, because both were exciting. I wanted, you've got the doctor, Harrison Ford, who obviously didn't do it, who's very smart, who is really risking it all, right? And then you've got Tommy Lee Jones, who's also really smart, really good detective, kind of one step ahead of everybody he's working with, and sometimes one step ahead of Harrison Ford.
And it's very interesting. Until about 2/3 into the movie, we don't have a bad guy per se. You just pointed out, we have Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, but neither one of them is a bad guy in that sense.
Right.
Tommy Lee Jones is the antagonist, but he is not doing anything bad. He is trying to serve justice.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it from the point of view of would somebody be rooting for Tommy Lee Jones, but I think that's very interesting.
Well, you have to assume that if they do catch him, obviously we know rationally he's going to die. We know that. Not only is he convicted of murdering his wife, but now he's an escape, he's a fugitive that's been caught. So we do know he will be getting the lethal injection. However, from a movie perspective, you're kind of well, he's innocent. We know he's innocent, the audience. So if Tommy Lee Jones does catch him, it'll all be okay kind of thing,
There is a misdirect that I do want to know if it got you. You have a moment where it's a moment that I guess needs to happen to play into the scene, but Tommy Lee Jones is sort of hitchhiking. Not Tommy Lee Jones. Harrison Ford, Dr. Kimball is hitchhiking, and a woman picks him up and says, need a ride.
Yeah.
He gets in the car and we cut to our marshals who are talking about, she picked him up last night. Yeah, he's staying with her. All right, let's go get him. And you have this whole sequence of them pretending to be bums and pretending to be flower delivery men and doing every classic, we're not cops thing while they're all getting their guns ready and getting ready to break down the door. And you realize they are not going after Kimball. They are going after, there was one other fugitive who escaped the bus train wreck, Copeland. And it's the scene where they're getting him, but I feel like it does a really good job of making you think oh shit, they found him again. They found him, until you realize oh, it is not him.
It really got me good. What I thought was happening was, for some reason, I thought maybe Harrison Ford's apartment was upstairs and they didn't know. Mm-hmm. So they busted in, and the downstairs neighbor, because you see the girlfriend is screaming and begging them not to shoot and whatever. And so originally I just thought, oh, this guy just had his home broken into. He doesn't know what's happening and he's trying to defend himself, because they're not dressed like cops. They're dressed like other career people, delivery people and garbage men and whatever. So he's waving a gun around and I'm thinking, yeah, of course he's trying to defend himself. His home just got broken into. He doesn't know what's happening. And then I realized that it was the other fugitive. So I was it took me probably longer than most to realize what was happening. Side note, looked just like the guy from the Green Mile.
Michael Clark Duncan?
Yeah, kind of. No,
I did not think so, but perhaps I'll have to look him up again.
I was joking around, and they were, he was in kind of a standoff with them, and I said to Corey, "Why doesn't he just use his magic?"
Oh my God. I've never seen The Green Mile, but I do get that reference.
You haven't seen the Green? I've only seen it like once or twice. Corey hasn't seen it either. We should watch it.
It feels too obvious.
Yeah, but you haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Jaws, guy, but Jaws is too obvious. We can't do Jaws.
That's fine. Well, in your spare time, you should watch The Green Mile.
And you in your spare time need to watch The Goonies.
Yeah. All right. Well, someday. All right. I can I were you about to say something, or can I keep saying something?
Keep saying stuff.
All right. I'm gonna be honest with you. This movie was about 20 minutes too long.
Is there can you give me, is there a particular moment that you're like, this could be cut?
That's a hard thing to say because I've only watched it once. There were definitely moments. So I think, and not in a bad way at all, but I do think they rushed the beginning to get to boom, he's a fugitive, right? And that makes sense. Like he was, the wife is killed, he's on trial, he's convicted, boom, he's going to jail or prison. It happens very quickly. But then I feel like the sequence explaining the pharmaceutical company and why he was framed and who was after him, that I feel like took a long time. There's a lot of like the prosthetics lab where he's trying to find out who had gone to this particular hospital to get a prosthetic arm because that's how he knows who killed his wife. Like, I just think that those things could have maybe been trimmed because I was like, this movie is good, but Jesus Christ, like how much longer can I be sitting here? We get it.
I don't think it's overly long. I think it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's interesting. I do see your point. The specific things you mentioned, like the first one that you just mentioned there was, I think it was the first one you mentioned, was the pharmaceutical company and explaining that rationale. Sometimes I think they go over it way too quick because I feel like I only get it and was able to explain it succinctly at the beginning because I've seen this movie multiple times.
Yeah.
Although again, maybe that's because I saw it the first time as a kid. And as a kid, I was just like, I don't know, but he didn't do it. Like, I don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think maybe it really, does it matter that much? No. So it shouldn't be something we spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
I do think it does an important job of, and again, maybe it is unnecessary, showing him researching one-armed men. Like you have a montage of him calling people on the phone and faking, hey, I'm with the homecoming committee. Will this guy make it? And they're like, nope, he's in jail. And it's like, okay. And it's like, yeah, maybe we don't need that. I don't think you end up losing that much time off the movie for it. You know what? You could maybe you get rid of the misdirect where they think they have found him and it turns out they found the apartment that he's staying at instead, but it turns out the landlord is a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's a misdirect that you can get rid of and shave off like 5-ish minutes.
Yeah. But do you agree that it's like just a little long?
I do agree that it might be a few minutes longer than it needs to be. But I think when I'm watching the movie, I like that I can find script reasons why things make sense.
Yeah.
Now, again, there is maybe an area of, what's another sequence I'm thinking you can get rid of? There's a lot of times where they show. Do you remember there's one thing that Richard says to the other fugitive, Copeland, before they both escape from the wreckage? Do you remember what he says to him?
I remember that I remembered it when it was happening, but I don't remember it now.
He says, Copeland, be good. Mm-hmm. And obviously Copeland goes off and, you can be sure that he's like, not being a good dude. But Richard really makes sure that as he is trying to escape the law and prove who the killers are, he never misses an opportunity to do the right thing if it's evident.
Yeah.
The most obvious one that I'm like, maybe you do cut this because it's sort of just there to show us how good Richard is and how smart Richard is there's a moment where there's this young boy, Joel, who's complaining about chest pains. And, Richard's pretending to be a janitor in the hospital because he needs to be able to research, like you were saying, prosthetics and things like that. And the doctor is in a rush because there's so many patients there. He doesn't check the x-ray. and he's saying that he's got like a broken sternum or whatever the fuck it is. We find out from them, it's very weird because you have like a very tiny role from Julianne Moore, who is a doctor, who says, bring this kid down to here, which I don't think they would ever ask a janitor like, hey, we're sort of busy, you move this patient.
Yeah.
But as he is on the way taking this child, he looks at the film and he realizes like this kid doesn't need to be here, he needs to be in surgery. And then you have like another sequence of Julianne Moore being like, who are you, and needing to get security. You probably could skip all of that, and again, with that and the other sequence, you could maybe save like 10-ish minutes.
Liked that sequence though. There were two reasons that I liked it. Number one, it like kind of tugs on your heartstrings because this little boy is so cute, and Harrison Ford is being so nice to him, and he's like, what sport do you play? You know, like, just like, as somebody who had surgery recently, I can tell you it ain't fucking like that, because I was alone in the hospital in my bed. I had emergency surgery. So to put it in context, I woke up at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday, and by 5 or 6 in the morning, I was in surgery. Like, it had to happen immediately. It was very painful. It was very scary. And they wheeled me away from Corey. They brought me up to the operating room, and I'm in the bed crying. And they're like, you're going to have to stop crying. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't know, because they were basically like, hey, so you're going to wake up after this. I had an ovarian cyst and it was rupturing. And they were like, you're going to wake up after this. We may have to like take out your entire reproductive system. You may not be able to have children. You might be like screwed for life. We might have to do a C-section. So like, sign here. Best of luck. We'll let you know if it goes okay. So I'm crying because my whole life is changing. And they're like, ma'am, like, you have to stop. So doctors are like not kind.
I'm sure they'd have different bedside manner with a child than they would with an adult, but yeah, that does not sound very nice.
The one nurse was like, hey, why are you crying? Also, by the way, they took my glasses, so I couldn't see anything because I'm blind as a bat. So I like vaguely see people moving around. I'm in so much pain. The morphine is wearing off. I'm like, they try to make me feel bad. They were like, most of the time we schedule this surgery so that it's not an emergency. And I was like, so sorry, my cyst ruptured at 2:00 in the morning. My apologies to inconvenience.
I'm just picturing the doctor being like, excuse me. You just need to shut the fuck up. Can you shut the fuck up? Like,
basically. Then they were like, and I won't talk about this for much longer, but then they were like, so it was a Sunday morning, obviously, and nobody wanted to be there. So they were like, so this is the doctor that's going to start the surgery. Another one is going to come in the middle. And then this other guy is probably going to finish. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to fucking mess this up. It was really bad. But anyway, so it was nice to see a doctor that like really cared and was being kind and trying to make this kid feel better, because I felt like a little kid that everybody was basically like, ma'am, you are disrupting us with your tears. And then I just also think it shows how smart he is, because he really does figure out from looking at this x-ray what needs to be done, and he figures out how to do it. He brings them up to the OR, tells them what to do. He's like, yep, the doctor told me to just like tell you this, and then they were able to save the kid's life. So I think I don't know, I like that scene. I really did feel like the problem for me came at the end when they were just kind of telling us exactly why it happened, because I was kind of like, I don't really care about this drug. I don't care about why he did it. They were doing a lot of flashbacks. I was like, yeah, I get it. It's fine.
You were already in enough for the journey that you were like, I don't need this much explanation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Or it could have just been in dialogue. Like, I didn't need a flashback to the opening scene of the movie where they're all at a party together, Yeah,
and that was very much to show, like, in case you missed it, like, they'd be like, flashback to the party, and it's like the company name on like the party invitation. It's like, you have to see, like, it was these people.
Yeah, I felt like that was unnecessary.
There is a bit of that. And I do think maybe that's just at the time, it's like, a little bit over-explained for movie audiences than it would be now. Because I do think upon rewatch, they do plant those seeds at the beginning too, where, Dr. Nichols says like, hey, thanks for the loaner. When he's talking about the car, which obviously is important that Dr. Nichols had the car because there was no forced entry into the house. He had his keys.
Right.
It's very important when he gets called back to do the surgery. All he's talking about in the surgery is like, boy, this guy's liver is bleeding bad. Is he on that new miracle drug that they're talking about? And it's like, oh, that links back later, but you're not thinking about it then. But they do make sure not only to connect that for you at the end, but they are literally like, it may as well be the crazy person with the strands of yarn on the poster board showing you like, okay, this thing connects back to here. Remember 2 minutes and 37 seconds of the movie when we showed that? That's important now, remember? Like,
yeah.
Maybe a little bit over-explained, but I've never judged it too harshly.
Well, I feel like I was getting a little bit like, oh my God, all right. And then it ended. You know what I mean? Like my frustration didn't really come to a head until it was like the end of the movie. And then I was like, oh, all right, cool. We're there.
It ends fast.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no like epilogue. It's like, all right, we're done.
Yeah. Which I like. You know, Corey and I have been talking a lot about how they just don't make movies like that anymore.
Well, because most movies they make now, they're like, we have to set up for future movies just in case. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Like we're like, Jesus Christ, this movie was so good. It was a story. It happened. It was over. And you know, what happens when you want to go to the movies? You got to see fucking Fast 10. Like enough already.
If this movie comes out today, I'm picturing a scene afterwards where you see Gerard and his new deputy, Kimball. And it's like, no. Like,
well, what's really funny is I said to Corey, because he kept saying, oh, U.S. Marshals. And I said, is that like a sequel? And he goes, no, it's like a follow-up. And I said, okay, well, is Harrison Ford like a marshal now? You know?
And I think that would be the worst. Like that does not sound at all necessary. I don't think his character is even mentioned. And I think Corey does a good job. It is a follow-up. It's like, well, you like these characters, so we'll do another movie with those characters. But it has nothing to do with the first story at all.
So it's just Tommy Lee Jones like solving another case as this guy?
Yes, it's them chasing another fugitive, basically.
Okay, but that fugitive is a bad guy?
I don't really remember. I don't think so. Like, I think that, again, there's a justification for it. I think he's a worse guy than Dr. Kimball was, basically.
Okay.
There's still, like, there's another villain, I think. Because I remember there being, like, a twist, but I don't want to reveal. I don't remember enough to reveal.
Let's talk about this.
Mhm.
Sorry, finish your thought.
It's finished. It's gone now.
Okay. Jane Lynch?
Jane Lynch and Julianne Moore both show up for 2 seconds, and it's explained more in the facts why they show up for 2 seconds.
Okay. Well, I have to tell you, I don't really have much more to say, so why don't we get to the facts?
I do think this would be a good time to get to the facts. I could talk about him beating up the one-armed man on the train more, but I think he beats the shit out of that one-armed man, and it's like he earned it.
Yeah.
But it is funny, just like, now that it's a one-on-one fight, you're not so good with your one arm. Like, he just...
Yeah.
Once... The one-armed man has a gun, obviously, when he finally confronts him. But as soon as he manages to get it, like, he gets the gun out of his hand and, you know, the way they're always fighting in a movie where he's like, I gotta throw his arm against the train pole like 7 times, and he drops the gun. And then he's just like, you're gonna get your ass whooped.
Yep.
I do love, again, in another moment that shows, like, he's a good guy. He's not out for revenge. He's out for justice. He does not kill him.
Yeah.
By the way, they have a line in this that I'm not sure if it's paying homage to Indiana Jones, but it's like, the exact same thing. In one of the Indiana Jones movies, Indiana Jones throws a man off of a blimp, and he's pretending to, like, yes, they're on a blimp, and he throws the man off the blimp, and he says he didn't have a ticket to the other people, and they're like, oh, okay. And it's another, like, it's just a cheesy one-liner that he says here where the one-armed man says, this is my stop. And he's like, clearly, like, he says that and like, no, this is my cool guy line and I'm about to kill you. But Harrison Ford beats the shit out of him and he's like, my cool guy line time. And he says, you missed your stop. First of all, love the line, but it's like,
yeah,
what? Nobody can hear you. Like,
yeah. That was a very, like, let's give him a moment here, you know, like a hero moment.
And one other thing I want to put out there is, Gerard, the entire time, Gerard and Kimball are both very singularly minded characters. Gerard believes he is guilty. He is going to treat him as such the entirety of the movie. You have a really nice moment at the end where they catch Kimball. Kimball is proven well enough that he is innocent to Gerard. They've basically caught the actual killer. Gerard gets him in the car. They've got him rearrested because he was a fugitive from the law. He takes the cuffs off of him. He gives him like an ice pack. And he says, I thought you didn't care. And Gerard says, I don't, but don't tell anybody, okay? That, like, he does have a heart. And it's like, it's nice to see that moment of, now that I know you're innocent, I will, you know, treat you like a person, like you deserve to be treated.
Yeah. I did like that.
Okay. Now would you like me to get to the facts and stop my gushing?
Fact me up.
I want the truth!
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Let's start with some ratings. IMDb gives this a 7.8 out of 10.
Interesting.
The tomato meter, it has a 96%, an average rating of 8.1 out of 10, 78 fresh reviews, and 3 rotten.
Wow.
Audience score of 89% with an average score of 4.1 out of 5. This was directed by Andrew Davis, who Scotty Cameron might know because he's directed several Steven Seagal movies, Under Siege and Above the Law.
Funny.
Which those were like the big Steven Seagal movies. Those are the ones that put him on the map.
Yeah.
He also directed the Shia LaBeouf movie, Holes.
Oh my God, of course, Holes.
Very random. Like, it does not fit with all these other like action movies that he did, but I'm like, oh, that's a good movie.
Stanley Yelnats.
Stanley Yelnats. The movie was written by Jeb Stewart and David Toohey, who also wrote Die Hard, Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick, and this was based on a TV series which was created by Roy Huggins.
Yes. Yeah, Corey mentioned that to me.
Yeah, this was a TV show in the 1960s where like every week it was like, Gerard didn't catch him yet, but Kimball's on the run and he's going to do another good deed while he tries to find that one-armed man.
That's really funny.
This definitely, to me, works much better. Like, I don't know how you stretch this out to be like seasons of this.
Honestly. But TV in that time period was so different because it was so similar to like radio stories, you know?
I guess so, where it's like, it reminds me very much of the story of, they did the Incredible Hulk show in the 70s, where it's just like every week he's going to like do a good deed for somebody. He's going to Hulk out briefly, and then he's going to be back on the road again. And it's like next week he'll do something good and Hulk out again.
Lou Ferrigno, right?
Yes, Lou Ferrigno played like the actual Hulk.
Yeah.
The movie stars Harrison Ford, who, you know, do I really need to explain what you know him as? Han Solo, Indiana Jones, yada yada. Tommy Lee Jones,
Flockhart's husband.
Callista Flockhart's husband. They've been together for a long time.
They've only been married since 2001 or 2010 or something like that.
That's still, I think it's 2001, and that's still a long time. That's impressive.
Yeah, but like, not really. 22-year age difference.
God, you really, this is what you put your time and research into, or do you just know this off the cuff?
No, I Googled it while we were watching the movie.
Oh, okay. What was I saying? Oh, the movie also stars Tommy Lee Jones, who, unlike Gab, you may know from Men in Black, JFK, Under Siege, Volcano, where he fights a volcano, which is awesome. And
he fights a volcano?
He is fighting this erupting volcano, and he's the only man smart enough to save the people from the volcano.
Oh, boy.
It came out, it's one of those movies where it came out at the exact same time as another volcano movie, Dante's Peak.
Oh, yeah.
Which I always think is very interesting when movies come out at the same time and have like the same premise.
Yeah.
And you may also know him from the sequel to this movie, U.S. Marshals. We also have Jerome Crabb as Dr. Nichols, who you may know from the James Bond movie, The Living Daylights, or the 1989 Punisher movie, which you hear a clip from every week in our verdict segment. Joe Pantoliano as the Marshal Cosmo, who you may know from Risky Business, Memento, The Matrix, and The Goonies. The movie was nominated for, oh wait, I did skip Jane Lynch and Julianne Moore in Blink and You'll Miss It roles, but I didn't feel like it was worth going into what they've been in.
Yeah, but why were they in? You said there was a fact.
I shall get there.
Okay.
The movie was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and Tommy Lee Jones won Best Supporting Actor.
Wow, good for him. Was Harrison Ford nominated?
I don't think so, no.
I'll tell you what, that beard, it didn't work for me.
You know what? Giselle sort of said the same thing, and Giselle's very pro beard. She said the beard made him look a lot older.
Yeah, I feel like personally he should have started clean shaven and the beard should have developed over time because it looked homeless. It was giving homeless.
Not when it's properly groomed. What? I disagree.
No. Listen, don't
By the way,
get
there's
all personally upset because you have a beard.
I do not have a homeless man beard at all, though.
No, you don't, but that's what I'm saying. His didn't look like yours.
No, he definitely has a bit bushier beard. 90s mustaches were wild, man. There are some mustaches in this movie that are like, whoa. They just look like people put brooms in front of their faces.
It's crazy. And I've actually learned a lot recently about mustaches because I didn't know that there was like mustache etiquette or that it was that hard to have one, like to like keep it looking nice.
Giselle always talks about her pet peeve for me is like, make sure don't let a mustache grow over the upper lip. And I never do.
Yes!
I'm very careful about that.
Corey talks about that all the time. And I had no idea that was a thing.
It just looks gross. And I imagine it feels gross too.
Yeah.
But there are so many mustaches in this movie where it's like almost over the entirety of the person's fucking mouth. You're like, holy shit.
A lot of mustache rules were broken in the making of this film, for sure.
Which was the style at the time, I suppose.
Yeah, which was the style at the time.
The movie had a budget of $44 million. It grossed $369 million worldwide. Critics' consensus, exhilarating and intense, this high-impact chase thriller is a model of taut and efficient formula filmmaking and features Harrison Ford at his frantic best. Reviews. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. Andrew Davis paints with bold visual strikes so that the movie rises above its action film origins and becomes operatic.
I want to pause you right there.
Pause me.
How are you going to feel the day that you get a push notification on your phone that Harrison Ford has died? Because I'll tell you what, I'm going to be devastated.
I didn't even like you just saying that. Don't
devastated.
Say that. I don't need to know.
Do you
that.
remember when he crashed his plane kind of close to where I lived?
I feel like that happened like 6 times. He crashed his plane.
But... yeah. But like, we need to protect this man at all costs. Like, he better not be flying.
Take away his pilot's license. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's old, Dylan. Like, he could die.
He's 80. Don't say that. Stop it.
I didn't like when they killed him. Spoiler alert. I didn't like when they killed Han Solo because I was like, why? He has years left.
But he wanted to die since the first Star Wars movie. He so desperately wanted to die. And he was like, God, just stop giving me more money. I just want to die in these movies.
What makes you say that? He didn't like doing Star Wars?
I think he has said it before that like he was in episode 5. The reason that they freeze him in carbonite is I think because he's not sure if he's coming back for another movie or not.
What an idiot.
Well, he came back. He's in episode 9 even. It's like, God damn, this dude kept coming back.
I know, but he's just so good. Han Solo is the role of a lifetime. He is Han Solo. I even said at one point, like, he says something in The Fugitive, and I'm like, oh, wait, Han Solo forever. He's always going to be Han Solo.
I think more Indiana Jones than Han Solo, but those are 2, like, so fucking iconic
Shut
characters.
up. Shut up. You're stupid. You shut up.
You shut up. No, just because
you're going to tell me Indiana Jones over Han Solo? Absolutely not. You're wrong.
I think...
Go ahead. Keep talking about your facts. I don't care.
Let's get back to the reviews. Jay Boyar from the Orlando Sentinel.
I cannot believe you just said that to me.
Anyway. Shut up. Indiana Jones is great, and that's a better character. While there are actors in this film, there isn't much room for acting. The rapid editing and near absence of dialogue reduces the actors to action figures with colorful labels pasted on their foreheads.
Okay, to this I say, have you ever seen Drive? Because that movie's awesome.
Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie?
Yeah, where there's barely any dialogue.
Yeah, I remember really liking it.
Great movie.
It was so interesting to have a main character who, like, he does not talk.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Nice Guys? Speaking of Ryan Gosling, that's okay. We might come back to that.
Okay.
Dwayne Burge from The Hollywood Reporter. Call something a real train wreck, and it's considered a put down. Not in this fast track, no stops chase movie with a massive train wreck scene that's going to have the audiences scrambling for cover. That feels like it should be on a poster. He was gushing.
Wow.
Jonathan Rosenbaum from the Chicago Reader. Though it's a good half hour too long, this overblown 1993 spinoff of the 60s TV show otherwise adds up to a pretty good suspense thriller. And last one, Rita Kempley from the Washington Post. A flurry of stunts, close shaves, and deeds of desperate daring, it easily transcends its television origins to become a stylish pacemaker buster on the order of Die Hard MD. Now we can get into our more fun facts. Harrison Ford damaged some ligaments in his leg during the filming of the scenes in the woods. He refused to take surgery until the end of filming so that his character would keep the limp. The limp seen in any subsequent scene where Richard Kimball is running is real.
Wow. Method acting.
I sort of mentioned this already. Andrew Davis only had one chance to crash the train in the train scene, so he consulted an array of engineers, stunt doubles, and insurance companies to predict what would happen. The train was expected to crash into the bus at 35 miles an hour, but the director was in error. The train came in at 42 miles an hour. Nevertheless, the scene went exactly as planned.
I was going to ask you if they had multiple takes or like multiple trains or whatnot.
There was one take, one train, and a hell of a lot of fucking cameras because they were like, we got to get every angle of this goddamn thing because we're only doing it once.
Wow. That gives me so much anxiety to think you have one chance.
It reminds me of in Tropic Thunder when he blows up like the forest and they were like, we only had one. Like, we got to go back. That's a whole day. The wrecked train and bus are still a tourist attraction in Dillsboro, North Carolina.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
You can go see it still.
That is awesome. I love that.
I do think that's cool. Like, would I ever take a trip to North Carolina just to see it? No, but if I was in the area, I'd be like, let's go see the Fugitive train.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Originally, Julianne Moore's character had a bigger role in the film, even after she exposes him briefly. Kimball was to have sought her out for help and eventually fall for her. These scenes were filmed and deleted from the final cut. This is the reason that her name is still credited as one of the main stars of the picture.
Interesting. I don't think I would have liked him falling for her. His wife is not even cold yet.
The movie where the man is doing everything to get justice for his dead wife should not have him falling in love with another woman. It's
Yeah.
the same reason why, like, Sleepless in Seattle makes sure to state that it's been 18 months, but I'm like, I just watched his wife die. Don't show me him with another woman.
Yeah. I get that.
Dr. Kathy Whalen, played by Jane Lynch, was considered a love interest for Richard Kimball during production. However, their relationship remained platonic, as it would have looked bad for Kimball to take a new lover while avenging the death of his wife. Again, like, how many women is he falling in love with on the quest to save his dead wife? Like, to honor her?
It's getting a little Indiana Jonesy in here, if you know what I mean.
According to the DVD commentary, the scene in which the Chicago police interrogate Kimball was improvised. Harrison Ford had no idea what questions he would be asked.
Okay, I like
cool.
that. Yeah.
This was the first American movie shown in Chinese theaters in over 40 years. Audiences accustomed to local movies were blown away when they saw it and became a huge hit there.
Wow. Why?
Why? I assume over-the-top action spectacle filmmaking. Why hadn't they
obviously.
shown?
Yeah.
Why hadn't they shown movies in China for 40 years?
Yeah. Communism.
Communism. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the answer. Like,
okay.
Communism, Gab.
That's what I would have thought.
Do you know the actor Neil Flynn?
Sounds familiar.
He is the star of the TV show The Middle. He was the janitor on the show Scrubs.
Oh my God. Yeah. The dad from Mean Girls.
Yes, he's the dad of Mean Girls too. Good
yeah.
point. Neil
Scrubs.
Flynn,
love that show.
Who later appeared on Scrubs. He obviously is in this movie in a blink and you'll miss it type moment. He is the cop who gets shot on the train. I think the only line he says is like, Kimball, stop. And it's actually worked into Scrubs, in which his character, the janitor, doesn't like to tell people that he appeared in the movie.
That is hilarious. I had no idea.
It is such a blink and you'll miss it type thing.
Is he the one that, like, somebody recognizes him on the train, he's reading the newspaper, sees that it's Kimball, and then goes to the other car and tells the cop? Oh my God, that's so funny.
And the one-armed man shoots him dead.
Wow. The one-armed man shoots him?
Yes. What did you and then they think Kimball's a cop killer, so they're all ready to kill him.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yes, I remember now.
There wasn't enough room for the cameraman to be inside the helicopter with Tommy Lee Jones. So the cameraman was strapped to the outside of the chopper in order to get clean footage of Tommy Lee Jones. Whoever that cameraman is, not enough credit.
Not enough credit. Not enough money, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you know Lester Holt?
Of course I know Lester Holt. Actually, fun fact, I used to train a woman who is in a cover band with Lester Holt.
Lester Holt's in a cover band?
Yeah, he plays the bass.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. I was just picturing him as a singer, and I'm like, what could he even sing? Barry White? Like, that man's got way too, like, deep a voice. I couldn't picture it.
No, he plays the bass, so it is that deep, but it's an instrument.
Now I'm just picturing him in, like, Lester Holt on bass, Josh Mankiewicz on guitar, Keith Morrison on the drums, and Andrea Canning on vocals, like the Dateline crew. Clearly I watched too much Dateline.
Yeah.
Lester Holt appears as one of the reporters outside the hotel at the end of the show. I'm guessing he was just a local anchor at the time.
Yeah, interesting.
Do I have anything else here that is super worthwhile? Harrison Ford said in an interview he never saw an episode of the show it was based on.
Yeah. Probably for the best, acting-wise.
The music, which I think is wonderful, is by James Newton Howard, who also composed the Hunger Games music, The Dark Knight, and Waterworld, which, ironically, I still remember the score for Waterworld and this movie. Like, if you ask me at any moment to start doing them, I can.
What's Waterworld?
Oh, God. It's a movie that I'm pretty sure is on my list. It's a famous, famous bomb. Kevin Costner stars as he never gets a name. I think he's called, like, the Mariner at times. The polar ice caps have melted, Gab. There is no land. There is no dry land. It's all water. That's pretty much it.
Oh, no.
There are roving gangs of bad guys led by Dennis Hopper and Kevin Costner.
Pirate style?
Guy. Sort of. But, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's more steampunk than it is like Pirates of the Caribbean pirates.
Oh, boy. Okay.
It's stupid.
Well,
and
anyway.
Okay. The script took 5 years, went through 9 writers and 25 drafts. And Joe Pantoliano insisted his character not die. And clearly you can tell at the end of the movie, he's being dubbed in. Like, he clearly is. There's a moment where he comes out on a stretcher And they have
Wait,
the
who is this? Who is this?
Cosmo, the deputy.
Yes, yeah.
He is coming out on a stretcher at the end of the movie. And I think initially he was supposed to die. And he has the mask over his face, and you can hear him saying, "Tell Sam I want my vacation," or whatever it is, like something like that. It's
Yeah.
like he's clearly not saying that in the moment. And it's because the actor was like, I cannot be dead. If this movie gets a sequel, I want to be in it. He is in the sequel.
That's awesome. That's really funny.
I think that is all the facts that I have.
Okay.
Gab, I am very much on the edge of my seat. I guess it's time to get some verdicts.
I guess so.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Obviously, being my movie, I will go first. I think this is very much a movie to watch before you die. I think it is tense. I think it has great action. I think it is suspenseful, and I think it keeps you on the edge of your seat. I think you are very much the entire time rooting for kind of all the characters, I guess, because Gab was even rooting for your antagonist. You're rooting for justice, though. And you're trying to figure out, like, well, how the fuck are they going to find out how this happened at the end? And I think when you finally get there, it's so satisfying when you have those beat 'em up moments of like, yeah, fucking get that justice. And like, they win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it gets out quick. I think it gets in quick. And I think it's just, there's a lot of, I think I just have too much passion to speak eloquently about this movie.
I
think
get
there's
it.
just a lot of good in here. That's all I'm
Yeah.
going to say. I don't think there's anything that I would qualify as bad about this movie. Gab, tell me, what do you think?
I've tried to really keep a neutral tone this whole time.
I've noticed.
So, yeah, because you do this to me all the time. And so I'm not going to indicate to you what it is. I'm going to let it hit you like a ton of I'm going to let it hit you like the train hits the bus. Okay, so to recap, I think both performances from Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones were very good. I think that it was a little too long. And I'm going to say, like, action movies are just not really my thing. Like, I don't really care for this genre. So I went in feeling like, oh, all right, here we go. And still, it makes sense that it was written by the writer of Die Hard because I loved it.
Yeah!
Like, I loved it. I was in from the beginning. I loved it. And I'm going to tell you why I loved it. I loved it because it got started really quickly. Like, we were in the action. Because sometimes I think some of the setup, like, I don't find the violence, not that I'm like anti-violence. I'm not like, prude about that kind of thing. Is that a word people still use? Okay, you know what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't love that, like, that's the payoff. It's like, yeah, he's beating him up, because it's like, it feels to me like we don't really get the payoff. You know what I mean? Because it just like doesn't do it for me. But I like that we were in the action quickly. There wasn't a whole lot of like gratuitous violence. It was very psychological. There were a lot of twists and turns. I will say that I didn't really fully, and I know they like over explain the reason for him being set up, but I feel like I like kind of missed it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe by that point it had just been so long that I was like, all right, come on. Because I feel like I didn't fully understand initially. Like, I knew he had been framed. I knew that Nichols had a hand in it. I knew that it was about the pharmaceutical company. And, like, I kind of understood like the high level what happened, but I felt like there was a lot of detail they were trying to show me with all the flashbacks and all the, like talking about it. And like, it just felt like they went into a lot of detail about something that seemed kind of straightforward. So I felt like maybe I had missed something. But I just thought it was great. I felt like it was a lot like Die Hard, where it was like exciting, entertaining. It was simple to follow. It was obviously, except for that one thing that I just said was kind of a little bit confusing. I feel like maybe what was confusing, I'm thinking of this now as I'm talking, was that the rest had been so simple that this ending was kind of like, all of a sudden they were like giving a lot of detail, and it was like, why? We hadn't had this much detail before, and I was fine,
I feel like in the last act of the movie, they're like, we have to say it like 7 times so that people get it. And they have him find the liver samples. All these liver samples came from the same body, so they're being faked. They have like several moments of like him talking about the drug. And then finally you have the moment where they're like, we need to make sure people get it. Where Dr. Nichols is talking at the doctor's conference and Kimball's in the room and he's like, you switched the samples and you blamed Lentz, but you had the authorization and I knew about the drug. And it's like, he's very much trying to say like, this is what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they did it so much that I was like, am I missing something? Like, yeah, because I felt like, yeah, I know you've explained this already.
I think you said though, by the time you get there, you don't really care.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't feel like I needed it. And the fact that they kept doing it made me feel like, have I oversimplified this? Like, am I missing a chunk that is
maybe
like
overcomplicates it at the end?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I thought it was great. I loved it. I was super bought in. It was a fun, like, great, exciting way to spend, 2 hours and change. And that is not my genre, but I loved it.
I am so glad to hear you like this movie because you know what? Giselle was like, you know what? It's not too much for me. And I'm like, she was on her phone during it. And like, I wasn't like, you have to watch every second of this movie, which I've done to her before. I've pretty much Clockwork Orange her and like forced her eyes open before, but I didn't do it. I think the most shocking thing that of my fun facts here was to see the script took 5 years, went through 9 writers and 25 drafts. Because to me, this feels like a script that is so precisely written. And then when I'm reading about
succinct.
Yes, it's efficient. And when I'm reading about things like they thought about these 2 different women being love interests at times, and I'm like, what? Like, it shocks me to see like, oh, we really didn't know what we were doing for a lot of this.
Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was great. Very good choice.
I forgot one thing. Other lines that were improvised, because Tommy Lee Jones apparently improvised a lot of his character.
Oh, interesting.
Tommy Lee Jones improvised the line, I don't bargain.
Oh, I love that. Tommy
Lee Jones improvised the response, I don't care, which was originally going to be, I didn't kill my wife. That's not my problem. Like, which, boy, that would not have worked.
No.
And Tommy Lee Jones improvised, well, think me up a cup of coffee and a chocolate donut with some of those little sprinkles, would you?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Interesting.
I think Tommy Lee Jones is one of those actors that I feel like I found when he's in on a movie, he's phenomenal every time. But you can tell when he's not in on a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I binged the Men in Black movies recently. Men in Black 1, he's very in and he's great in it. Men in Black 2, he's still in, still very good. Men in Black 3, he is like, I am old, I do not care. And you can tell that he is just there to be in the first and last 10 minutes of this movie and to get a check. He is like, sure, I will buy another house with this money. I am done with this movie though.
Yeah, 100%. I like to say his I don't fucking want to be here energy was high.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee
That's my
Jones
favorite.
has resting bitch face.
Yeah. Have you ever gone to like a restaurant or like a Starbucks and the person behind the register there, I don't want to fucking be here energy is like out of control?
Yes, Tommy Lee Jones was me when I worked at Wendy's.
Yes. Yeah. I often have that energy at work where I'm just like I'll have 2 classes back to back. In my first class, I'm on fire. And my second class, my I don't fucking want to be here energy is through the roof.
I'm just picturing, I didn't get my barbecue sauce. I don't care. Like, put Tommy Lee Jones on the drive-thru. See how many complaints you get.
Oh my God. All right, Dill. Well, that was great. I loved it. Very good choice. And I hope, listener, if you haven't watched this movie, you take the time because it is worth it. Next week, we have a very special guest coming on.
Oh, yes. You did tell me about this. So we actually know the movie ahead of time, which is such a nice thing. We do.
So not that long ago, Corey and I were talking about, he really loves superhero movies. I'm not really into them. He keeps saying we're going to watch some. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Because again, these movies to me feel like 3.5-hour movies where the payoff is somebody getting punched in the face. And it just like doesn't seem like I'm going to enjoy it. That said, he said if we were going to watch a superhero movie, the one he would want to start with is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because it's a recent movie, but he said it was one that he really loved and that really meant a lot to him. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about why, because obviously he'll come on to talk about it. But I said, is that a movie you would want to talk about on the podcast? And he said, yes, because originally he wanted to come on to talk about Rush Hour. But I was like, this sounds like it actually means something to you. I think you just like Rush Hour. And he was like, yeah, no, I really want to come on and talk about it. So next week, Corey will be on and we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I do think superhero movies, the bad ones have a tendency of becoming just punching for the sake of punching at the end. The good ones have a character arc that the punching means something to you at the end.
Sure.
And not to, spoil anything, I think that there is definitely an important character arc in the movie. What was I going to say here?
So you've seen it.
I have seen it. I know James Gunn, who I said before on this podcast, the name means something to you, but he's the head of DC Studios. He directed all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, Slither, a bunch of movies, has called it the best superhero movie ever, I think.
Wow.
I think he said this and Deadpool were his favorites.
Wow. Well, I'm excited.
I am excited too. So now that we know next week Into the Spider-Verse, Gab, do you want to tell the people, they already found us, but tell them where they can find us and what they can do?
Well, people, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Anchor, other podcast places, like whatever. Like if there's a podcast place that you like, you can find us. If you want to be on the show, you can write us an email at movies-to-watch-before-you-die@gmail.com. You can send a voice note at anchor.fm/movies-to-watch, or you can DM us on Instagram, or you can Venmo me. And in the note with the money, you can put something you want to say and I'll read it on the podcast.
For money, she'll say anything.
Anything. I'm like Anchorman.
She will read whatever is on that prompter. Thank you to all the people who do listen, who do write in, who do tell me offline what you think about the episodes. Shout out to Scotty, to Keen, to Pedro, to Vitz, to my fat face, to Giselle, to Corey, to Scott and Toronte, to, I don't know who, Cassidy, Ian, Gab, I'm sure there's random people who tell you about the podcast. We got like another minute. Name some people.
Yes. Haley listened once.
Did she listen to the Redeemed and the Dominant?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
I'm like, the Redeemed and the Dominant, the episode we did about CrossFit, has a bunch of views, and I'm like, those are definitely all Gab people.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, honestly, this podcast is one of my favorite parts of the week. I love watching the movie before we talk about it. I love hanging out with you. I love talking with you in between about stuff that's related to the podcast. So if you're listening and you give us a reason to do this every week, thank you, because we really love it. I mean, I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you hate it, but I love it.
Well, we love it, and we're going to keep doing it. So fuck you.
Yeah.
If you want to stop, good luck.
You're never going to stop us. And that's where we cut it.
You're under arrest.
No, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
I want a hard target search of every farmhouse, doghouse, hen house, in-house, and outhouse. Your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball.